This week, I'm doing a complete overhaul on my car trailer, front to back, top to bottom. I'm actually upgrading it at the same time with some axles from a new partner of mine, Lippert axles. But first, before we start tearing this trailer apart, let's grab some Gearhead coffee. I've had this trailer for some time. It's actually a hand-me-down. I got it off my buddy Bill McClister that you've seen out wheeling with us a few times. It's been a great trailer. Crazy thing is the price tag is actually still on it right here. It's like $1,495 was what this trailer cost when it was bought. Now that is a long time ago, and now I'm going to completely overhaul this trailer. Now, why am I doing that instead of buying a new trailer? Well, here's the deal. When I put the new drive-over fenders on this trailer not too long ago, I realized that, number one, I only had brakes on one axle. I think the axles might be bent, and I'll show you why I think that's the issue when I take it apart. And then the trailer itself just got a little worn out, you know, like paint's looking a little janky, the wood deck is definitely shot, and the jack is somewhat questionable. Plus, I want to add a few things to it. You know, I want to put a winch on the front. I want to put a tongue box to store a bunch of stuff in. Like I said, I want to put a new jack on it. I want to put new tires on it because the tires are worn out. And I'd like to have brakes on all four tires and wheels. Now, saying that, what I'd like to do at the same time is upgrade this trailer. So I went out and I priced a brand new trailer with all the things that I wanted. So two 5,000-pound axles instead of two 3,500-pound axles. So that brings the overall weight capacity of the trailer up to a total of 10,000 pounds. Winch on the front, tongue box, obviously would have a new wood floor. And a trailer was $7,500. $7,500. This trailer costs me nothing because I already own it. So right now I am starting with a trailer that owes me $0. This trailer has definitely paid itself back to me with that $1,400 price tag. This trailer has towed to almost every single state in the United States. It has been to all four corners of the country with different rock crawlers on it. So instead of spending $7,500 on a new trailer, I'm going to show you how to take the existing trailer that you have and make it better. Now, as I said before, I put the drive-over fenders on this trailer before. I'll put a link to that video up here. And that has made this trailer amazing. I really, really like it. That is what sold me on just rebuilding this trailer. So right now, I would say arguably, I got $700 in this trailer because that's what I paid for those drive-over fenders. And now, I'm going to keep upgrading. But it's going to start by taking this entire trailer apart. The idea behind this rebuild is simple. I'm going to strip this thing down to a bare frame. Now the frame on this trailer, it is in great shape. There's a little bit of surface rust, but as a whole, it is perfect. So once I have it stripped down, I can pull out all of the wiring because if I'm going to go this far, I might as well rewire it as well. Now this is exactly where I wanted to start with this project. This is a completely clean slate now on this trailer. As you can see, everything is gone. I pulled the decking off, pulled all the wiring out. I kept the pigtails for the lights. The lights still work and they're LEDs and they're fine, so there's no sense replacing those. Pulled both axles out, completely stripped all the wood decking, even cut off the jack that was at the front. Now I'm test fitting this tongue box first, see where it's going to go, because that's one of the first things I'm going to tackle is putting that tongue box on there along with my new jack. Now, as I said before, this is a lot cheaper than going out and buying a brand new trailer. And I'll give you a cost breakdown of the whole trailer when it's done. But as of right now, really, I guess honestly, the only expense I could say I have is my Motobilt drive-over trailer fenders that I've already previously installed on this trailer. So I'm going to say that we're starting right now with a trailer that owes me $0, and right now I spent about $700 on those drive-over fenders. Now I am replacing everything on this trailer. So you can see I have a new 7-pin wiring connector with a junction box. I really like using these. I'll show you why when I put them in. Brand new jack from Lippert for the front. Kurt breakaway kit, because I really wasn't sure if my breakaway kit was working. And then all new wires, all new suspension, all new springs, hangers, equalizer bars, shackles, everything. Now, all of the suspension will go over when we get there, and the axles, because that is actually an upgrade for this trailer. But the first thing I want to do is we're going to tackle that tongue box and the mount for the trailer jack up front. I'm basically going to work on this trailer from the front all the way to the back. Now I made this front plate a lot bigger than it actually needed to be, but I wanted to add a little bit of length to it so it would pick up the front of the tongue box. The tongue box itself actually just sits down on top of the main trailer frame, but I'll punch a couple holes in this piece of 1/8, and that will be what anchors it in place. One thing I did want to make sure when I basically mounted this jack was that there was room for my hand to fit between the tongue box. Last thing I wanted to do is be banging my knuckles off this, so I had to move the jack just a little bit further forward than where it was before. And then I'm going to take advantage of this big flat piece back here. That's where I'm going to mount my wiring junction box. Now this is basically a 7-pin connector, pretty standard connector that's used in most trailer applications, and it comes with this integrated junction box. Now one of the reasons why I like this junction box is I've used these on a few trailers. Whenever I get a trailer that doesn't have one, I usually add one. And the reason why is because it helps with future diagnosis. Let's say in the future something's wrong with the wiring of the truck that's towing this trailer and there's no trailer lights or no turn signals or whatever. Instead of having to like pull the loom apart to fix it, you can actually open up the junction box and all the wires are bare in there. They're just like little terminals that you attach to. So if you had to, you could take, say, the main power feed from the truck, which might be working, or there will be a battery in my tongue box. I could take the power off that battery and just hook it up to the light, so I'd have lights to get the trailer home. There's benefits to having this system in place because it just helps you out when you're on the road in the future. That junction box, definitely worth the money. I'll make sure to put a link. I'll put a link in the description below to everything that I'm using on this trailer so far. And like I said before, we'll do a full running total when it's all said and done. But now that I have this plate cut, what I'm going to do is mark some holes to drill. I got to drill the holes for the jack. I'll drill the holes for the junction box, and I'll drill a couple holes for the tongue box. I'll do that on my drill press. I'll just mark it when it's here on there, and then I can weld it in. All right, so my tongue plate is now on. You can see now I've got basically this plate welded in place, the jack on here. One thing I should point about this jack that I really, really liked is the fact that, yeah, it has the crank handle like most jacks do, but what you can do is flip it over and you can use a socket on it with an impact. And when you turn it, the handle doesn't turn. It basically disengages from the handle. And the reason I like that is because my plan, my long-term plan, is in this tongue box to also keep a cordless impact charger and the batteries that I need. So when I need to use this trailer jack, I can just grab the impact and away I go, up and down it goes. It's just what I'm doing with this trailer is basically what I do with my off-road rigs. I think of what I need whenever I go wheeling, and I put it in a box and take it with me. So this trailer, I'm doing the same thing. This tongue box is going to have everything I need for a typical haul, so I don't have to always like run around, gather up my straps, gather up my impact gun and my sockets, and for the tires and wheels, the jack, blah blah. All that stuff is going inside of this tongue box. So now, basically, as I said before, I'm working from the front to the back. So now what I want to do is, so now that part is completely rebuilt. Obviously, it still needs to be painted, but I'm going to do that later. So now I'm going to move to the next section, which is going to be, I'm going to put a winch, and like not a trailer winch, an actual winch right on here. I'd contemplated keeping the winch inside the tongue box, but I think that's just going to be a pain in the neck. So I'm going to put a winch plate on here, but where I'm going to put it is actually up on this bar right here, not down on the deck. So the deck will be separate. So the winch plate will sit up on top of that. And then I'm also going to do 2 spare tire mounts, one on either side. So I'm going to work on the winch plate and the spare tire mounts right now. I went back and forth a lot on the spare tire mount for this trailer. I thought about putting it up against the tongue box over here. I thought about mounting them flat in the floor up there. I thought about putting them on the side over here. But here's the reasons why I didn't do that. Side over here, what happens if I load a long vehicle and it hangs over, it's got an extra wide track on it and it hangs over a little bit and the tires get in the way. So don't want to do that. I want them up high enough off the ground so they're not going to hit anything. And right now that height is above that. And I mean, that's plenty high right there. So that should be good. I didn't want to mount them onto the tongue box because my concern was that it's going to, when I turn, I mean, I don't think I'd ever get to the point where the rear bumper would hit, but I certainly don't want to make this any wider than it already is. So I think this is going to be the best spot. So 1 spare here, 1 spare over there, that's 2 spares. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mount that basically is just going to be a mount for a bolt hole, or basically a bolt, I should say, a stud will come through there with a lug nut on it. And then I'm going to have another hole where I can drop a lock through. So basically these will be sitting straight like this. 1 bolt will be what mounts the tire in place, and then the lock will be what holds it on to, keeps it from getting stolen, I guess I should say. So 1 spare here, 1 spare there. That's 2 spares. I think that's a good spot for them. It's not a complicated mount. It's just basically going to be a piece of tubing that comes straight off of here, picks up those 2 bolt holes, and just basically holds the tire in place. If I don't like it, I can easily take it off. It's not complicated. It's 1 little piece of square tubing right there. But I'm going to make a plate on the plasma table to pick up those 2 bolt holes. And at the same time, I'm going to make my winch mount. The spare tire mount is made from some 1/8" plate and some 1.5" square tubing. A super simple design that's going to be easy to build and effective. The winch mount is also made from 1/8" plate with some integrated gussets and a fair lead mount all built into it. The winch that I'm going to use on this trailer project is a Rugged Ridge Trekker 10. That's a 10,000 pound winch with synthetic rope. One of the reasons why I like this winch is it comes with a wireless remote, and that'll just make loading a vehicle a lot easier. So we'll be able to run this thing all the way out, hook up to it, and just run the winch from either in the vehicle that's being pulled up onto the trailer or from beside. I don't have a bunch of cords I have to worry about. I've used these Rugged Ridge winches on a couple projects. For the price, they are a great winch, and this is a perfect spot for one of these. It's definitely overkill. I could probably get away with like a 5,000 pound trailer winch, but very often I am buying like just junk bodies and then I'm dragging them up on this trailer. So I think having the extra high capacity winch is definitely going to help me out. I will be putting a battery inside my tongue box. That battery will be charged by the truck that's towing the trailer. So there's a main power feed off that 7-pin connector that you can use to charge batteries. There's going to be a battery that goes in there. And then, as I said, I'm probably also going to have some sort of charger. So I might put some inverter or something in there. But one other battery that's going to go on this trailer is this. This is a Kurt breakaway disconnect kit. So my trailer already had one of these on it, but I honestly do not know if it was functioning. So for the price of one of these, I thought it was just a good idea to buy it. So the way this works is when you hook up the trailer to the truck, you put this little cable. You hook it up as well when you hook up your chains. That way, if the trailer is ever to become disconnected, it pulls this pin out, and then what'll happen is it'll energize the trailer brakes immediately and lock up both wheels. Well, in this case, it'll lock up all 4 wheels because the new axles that are going underneath this trailer have brakes at all 4 tires, which is a major upgrade for this trailer. And that's not the only upgrade that's happening with the axles. So now that I'm at the point where I've got my winch mount done, it's got to cool before I can paint it, that tongue box mount is done, all that kind of stuff is done, front of the trailer is done, spare tire mounts are on. I'm going to test fit the tires before I fully weld them. If they look like they're going to fit well. Oh, I should show you one change I made with these. Originally I had thought about just doing one plate across and picking up just two bolts. But my concern was if I put a bolt in one and a lock in the other, the tire will want to roll around. So I thought, well, I should put 2 in. And I thought, well, if I'm going to cut this out, why not pick it up so I can pick up 4 of the holes in the wheel, and that way it'll hold it on there really, really well and everything will work well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to test fit the tire, make sure I've just tack welded these in place. I want to test fit the tires on there, make sure that they're sitting on there well, they're not loose, floppy, or anything like that. Then I will show you the biggest upgrade that's happening to this trailer. So now we're ready to move on to the biggest upgrade that this trailer is going to see while it's in the shop. Now, the main reason that I started this whole rebuild plan was because a company named Lippert Axle reached out to me and asked if I had any use for some of their trailer axles in a project. And I had said, you know what, I just put drive-over fenders on my trailer, and I think that the axles underneath it are somewhat suspect. I was planning an upgrade sometime in the future. Now, full disclosure, Lippert is a full sponsor of this vehicle. They did send me those axles, but I will include the actual cost of those axles when I give you the cost breakdown of what it took to basically rebuild this trailer front to back. Now, the nice thing about the Lippert axles is they're made in the USA. They are ready to ship on their site. For this trailer, I use just a set of off-the-shelf axles. They have them listed on there, and what you need to do is you need to measure your wheel mount surface, so that's the face of each end of the axle, and where your leaf springs land. And they had a set that were not only right on the site with brakes at all 4 corners, they were actually better because they are twin 5,000 pound axles. This trailer, when I bought it, had twin 3,500 pound axles, meaning that the total weight that this trailer could carry was 7,000 pounds. Well, now I'll be able to carry a total weight of 10,000 pounds. I don't ever expect to carry that much weight on this, but it's nice to have that extra insurance underneath the trailer if you can do it for just a little bit more money. And honestly, it was just a little bit more money. Now, the Lippert axles, as I said, they're made in the USA. They ship in 2 days. So if they are on their site ready to go out the door and you order them, they are in a truck within 2 days and on their way to you. I ordered these axles on I think it was a Monday. I had them by Friday that week. And not just the axles. I actually got more stuff. I was able to get everything I would need to completely rebuild all the suspension underneath this trailer at the same time. So that means new equalizer bars, new shackles, new springs, new bolts, new U-bolts, that's very important, everything, all delivered before the end of the week. If you're planning a trailer build or you're planning to rebuild your trailer like I have here, make sure you look up Lippert axle for your axle needs. I'll also put a link to the Lippert trailer axle site in the description below so you can find your trailer axles easily. I am very impressed with the look of these axles and how fast they arrive. These upgraded axles will make this trailer better than new. Now this was actually the easiest part so far of this trailer rebuild because it was just 100% just unbolt and bolt in the new axles. And now I have the twin 5,000 pound axles with brakes on all four corners. And that's it. This trailer is now a 10,000 pound capacity trailer because of those new upgraded axles and my 6-lug tires and wheels. And I got brakes at both ends. So now that those axles are in place, I think the next thing I'll start working on is redoing the wiring. For some reason, this junction box does not follow conventional color coding when it comes to trailer wiring. For those of you that have never wired a trailer before, there's kind of basic general rules of almost every trailer out there, whether it's a 4-pin or a 7-pin. Every wire has a specific color. So for an example, your brown wire will always be your running lights. The yellow and green wire, those are your stop and turn on either side. Blue is usually electric brakes. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but white is always ground. I don't know why. It should be black, in my opinion. Anyway, so this junction box came with this little cheat sheet that tells you what everything is, even though it's completely wrong. So ground is white, power is black, no idea why. The backup lights are now yellow, left turn is red, tail lights are green, right turn is yellow, and the electric brakes are blue. So out of that entire breakdown, the only two that are normal trailer wires are the ground and the electric brakes. Everything in between is different. Now, I don't know if this is maybe an international thing or I don't know, because this obviously came from overseas. So what I did to make my life simpler in the future is I went ahead and I took my label maker and I just labeled every single one of the wires, so now I know what they are. And now I can actually start wiring the trailer. First thing I'm going to be doing is wiring up my breakaway box. So this blue wire is going to come down and it's going to connect to the breakaway switch. So I'll butt connector these two wires together. Then this black wire will go into the junction box and it will attach to the actual lug that says brakes. That way, when the trailer breaks away and this pin is pulled out of here, what happens is the battery that is inside of this box energizes the electric brakes and locks them up. You can actually test the battery with this box. I think it's kind of cool. Just press a button, test it, and it will show me when it's charging or when it needs a recharge. Now, to charge this battery, we'll be using the battery feed, like I said before, from the truck. And so we have two more wires to hook up. So the red is the battery and white is ground. Now to hook these up, I like to use these little non-insulated butt connectors. And then I just cover them with some heat shrink and I basically melt it. I think that gives it a really, really nice finished look because big, bulky butt connectors just kind of stick out. So that's the first step. Wire up that breakaway box, and then I can start working my way down the trailer. Next step is to run each individual component. So the loom's going to come down at this side of the trailer, go behind the tongue box, jump up in behind here, and then it goes out to feed these 2 corner marker lights that are on the trailer right here, and then it's just going to run down. You can see there's actually holes in the cross members that the trailer manufacturer punched in those holes, so then the loom will just go all the way down the trailer this way. There's a center light in the back, and then I'll pick up each turn and stop light in the back as well. Now this is really where you have a couple options. Option 1 would be to use the trailer frame itself as the ground. What you could do is simply run a ground wire from each light into the ground. I could take that ground lug that's in that junction box and just say, oh, I'll just run it down to the trailer. I have always fought ground issues on trailers, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a dedicated ground circuit. One, I'm going to use black just because that's just, I can't turn that off in me. That's black is ground. I'm going to run a black wire through the entire loom, and that will be where I hook up for the ground for each light. So each light will be grounded back to the junction box, which will then be grounded to the truck, because that is actually what is delivering power out to each individual light. Or in the case of it being disconnected, if the breakaway box ever gets pulled, it'll be powered by the battery, which is also on that grounding lug as well. It should eliminate any ground issues that I have in the future for anything on this trailer. So 1 ground wire, I'll run tail and brake. So it's a ground wire, a tail and brake light for each side. It'll actually run down the passenger side of the trailer and then go across to pick up the opposite side. And then it'll be the electric brake wire and then running light wire. And that's all I have to do. I am going to add a couple of lights to this trailer. I'm going to add some little Harbor Freight little 4-inch cubes in here. So I'm going to add those right behind the spare tires. It'll just point back. And those will be able to, I'll just run them off a switch. So I'll pull the battery power off of the truck, off that junction box. I'll just come back and run those. But I'll wire those individually later. Right now I'm just going to run a bunch of loose wire, and then I will tape it up once everything is connected. A great tool to have when doing any type of electrical work is this little power probe. Now, this is an older one, but it's honestly one of my favorite ones. Basically, the way I have it hooked up right now is I have it hooked up with a battery on the floor over there, and it has 2 alligator clamps on it that basically just connect to the battery that's sitting on the floor, and that's a fully charged battery. And the power probe allows you to do a couple things. It allows you to act just like a regular test light. You can just, touch to the end, it'll tell you the voltage coming out. But the nice thing is you can also apply voltage. So with this little rocker switch on here, I can apply 12 volts to a circuit, and I can also apply a ground. But it also has this little stinger lead off that, and this goes back to the ground. Now the reason that this is handy is because in a case like this, in this corner, I have just 3 wires going into this box. And I think I've figured out, I think what they're doing is I think they're using the brown wire as the ground for all the lights in this junction box. But just to check that, I'm going to hook my little ground stinger lead up to that. And then what I'll do is I'll put this light back in its grommet, just so it's easy to see. And then one of these should be brake. No, it's not. Okay, so that's not the ground. Maybe the green's the ground? There we go. So that's what they've done. They've made the green the ground, yellow is the brake, brown is tail light. So you can see how this works. So it's so handy to have, because I can just go ahead and, that's my tail light, and then if I take this one and touch it, that's going to be my brake and turn. So knowing that, now I know that green is the ground, which is super handy. Figuring that out without that power probe would have been an absolute pain in the butt. That's just the nice thing about having that tool at your disposal, because not only is it, like I said, a test light, you can also energize a circuit just to check it and see how it works. So it's super, super handy. I keep one here in the shop. I keep one in my tow rig. I keep one, sounds silly, but I have 3. I keep one in my box that goes onto all my trail rigs. So I always have one on the trail, because you never know when that tool is going to come in super handy. So now that I know the green is the ground, I can hook it up to the ground wire, and then I can hook the taillights up, the turn signals up, and then all the wiring is done. Once again, I'm using non-insulated butt connectors and heat shrink for all these connections to completely rebuild this harness. And the ground wire from the lights will be hooked into the ground loop that I added to this harness. Now I'm finally at the point where I can replace the decking on this trailer. Now I was kind of hoping to maybe get one more year out of the wood that I had on this trailer, but once I got it in the shop and started to mess around with it, I took one look and it was like, no, there's no way. Going this far with the trailer, doing new axles and suspension and all new wiring and adding a bunch of accessories, it's just, you know, why not? Put new wood on it. I went back and forth about putting metal on it, and I decided not to do that. And so I just went down to my local home center and I picked up what I needed. These are basically 2x8 pressure treated pieces of lumber, 16 feet long, because that'll take care of the majority of the deck. And then I got a couple of 2x12s, which should give me enough to take care of the little beaver tail or dovetail, whatever you want to call it, at the back. And then I'm basically just going to cut them to length, slide them into place, and fasten them. I did consider making this trailer a steel deck trailer with an open center, but I often use this trailer to pick up steel, bodies, miscellaneous axles, engines, and transmissions, so I think keeping it a complete solid flatbed is the right choice. That's all it takes to replace the decking on this trailer. You can see it looks really good. This looks way better. Now, you're probably wondering what's going to happen down that middle, and that is because I either need to rip another piece of wood to go down there, or I'm contemplating putting a piece of metal down the middle of this with some lights in it. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to do. So I think what I'm going to do right now is get the decking screwed down, and then I'll make the decision about that middle piece. I think, in all honesty, I'm just going to put a piece of wood down it because I don't know. I'll decide once the wood decking is secured. To secure the decking, I use these special screws. These are they're called, see right here, they're trailer 4 screws. They have a Torx bit on them. And this trailer used to have basically a row of screws just right here, and that was it. And then a row of screws across the metal plate on the back. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to see if I have enough. I'm going to run a row of screws basically right here, and then I think I'm going to run a row of screws right here, and then I'll have the plate that goes across on the back. And then I'll decide what I'm going to do with the middle. One other reason why I'm leaving that middle open right now is, like all pressure treated lumber, this is not, sometimes it gets a little warp in it. You can see there's a little gap open up there. So what I'll do is I'll use my porta power to basically spread these pieces of wood out. I want them as close together as they can because they will shrink. They're wet when you buy them. There's no point putting a space in between them for water to get through, because the reality is that over time they're going to shrink and there's going to be a gap. So the best thing to do is to butt them up super tight to each other and just screw them down. All right, so the last thing I got to do for the trailer is to mount up some new tires and wheels. Now, if you remember, this whole project started with just the fact that I knew that I had a couple bad tires on the trailer. So I went out and just got some new heavy-duty trailer tires for the trailer. I believe these are 12-ply trailer tires. They're specifically designed for a trailer. These are a 225/75 R15. That was what was on it, but now I need to mount them up onto a set of 6 lug rims to go with my new Lippert axles. The only issue here is I originally had 2 good spares for my trailer, so no big deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take those spare tires off, put them on these wheels, so I now have 2 new good spares for the trailer. This is the last tire I'm mounting up my new wheels. This is actually my old spare. It's still perfectly good. It's actually never been run on the trailer. It's just a little dirty just from being stored basically in the back of the truck and then just lays outside the shop where the trailer was. So a couple tips and tricks when if you ever have to deal with a tire that doesn't fully get onto the bead. Sometimes when they ship these tires, when you put them on the rim, they'll sit like this. In that case, some tire machines have what's called a bead blaster. That is when you push on a pedal to fill it with air, it blasts air from up underneath on the table, and that helps seat the bead. This tire machine doesn't have that. You can get a bead blaster. You've probably seen them online, like those big yellow tanks where you get near the wheel and you just hit it with a bunch of air at one shot. That can help seat the bead. But if you don't have either of those options, one thing that you can do is I like to lift up on the tire, get the bead sort of locked onto the top of the rim, and then that'll let gravity let the bottom bead sit onto the bottom of the rim. And also you want to remember to completely remove the valve stem core from the valve stem. That'll allow the maximum amount of air to get into the tire, and then use whatever air filling tool you have that flows the most air. This one that I have, this one flows the most air out of any one I have in the shop. I don't know why. I think it's just because it's really designed for big truck tires. And I've got this super cool locking end on it. This is from the Lock and Lube people. This is called the Lock Inflate. Locks really well onto the valve stem and it allows me to fill it up easy peasy. So grab the tire, lift it up onto the top lip, and then just let it go gently because it's just basically holding onto there. Then clip on my air chuck and fill it with air. There you go. I like to fill it up to 40 pounds to seat the beads, and then I run about 40 pounds of air in my trailer tires, depending on the load that I have on them. Just make sure that you actually read the side of the tire. Do not exceed the maximum inflation amount on the side of your trailer tires, no matter how much weight you're putting on the trailer. To finish out the trailer, I'm going to do one last little custom thing. Now, this is something that I have had in the back of my head for any car trailer I've ever owned. I've seen it once before on a trailer, and I thought it was a great idea. So this is what I'm going to do. So when you put the wood on these trailers, it's never the exact width to fit a perfect amount of board. So you end up having to trim one board. Now, most trailer manufacturers, what they do is they trim the last board so it looks a little goofy. I decided to leave the center open and then decide if I was going to add a board. But instead of adding a board, what I'm going to add is this entire strip of 1/8 inch, I believe this is 6 inch wide, so 1/8 inch by 6 inch wide steel, and it's going to plug weld down on top of these little stanchions that I've already put in place. Now, the reason I am doing that is twofold. What it's going to do for me is it's really going to clean up the center of the trailer. It's going to look really cool. But more importantly, it gives me a place to add a center mount D-ring at the front, which is what I want to do, as well as a center mount D-ring in the back. But most importantly, this is what I'm adding. I'm adding these flush mount round 4.5 inch LEDs into the floor of the trailer. So I'm going to put one there, I'm going to put one right here, I'm going to put one right there, and then I'm going to put one right there. And what that is going to do is that is going to allow me to put a switch for those LEDs inside my tongue box. I'm actually going to mount it on the face of the tongue box. I have some push button switches that I'm going to use. And what that is going to allow me to do is when I'm loading, if it's nighttime, I can turn on those lights. They'll shine up underneath the rig and I'll be able to see everything underneath the rig. Also, if I ever have to work on the vehicle when it's up on the trailer, I have super bright LED lights to work from, and it's gonna work really, really good. I'm super excited about it. I'm gonna cut the piece of steel to length, and then I'm actually gonna move it over onto my plasma table to cut these 4.5 inch holes that I need to cut. And then I'll bring it back over, plug weld it down. I'm actually gonna set it in place, and I'm gonna decide if I need to add more of these little stanchions that I've cut. I just cut those out of some scrap 1.5 inch square pieces. But before I actually weld it down, I will run the wiring harness all the way up so I don't have to go underneath the trailer and do it on my back. But that's it. Then this trailer will be 100% done. We'll pull it outside, we'll do a quick walk around on it, and I'll show you everything that we did. As I finish putting this trailer back together, let's talk budget to rebuild this trailer. I bought $220 worth of wood, $50 for the LEDs that are in the floor, and the drive-over fenders were $700. Screws for the floor were $30, winch was $600, wheels were $330, and the tires to go on those wheels were another $330. The new breakaway box was $60, 7-pin connector and junction box was $33. All the wire to rewire the trailer was $27. A new jack was $57, and that tongue box was $125. The Lippert axles would retail for $2,600, and that includes the axles, the brakes, all the new suspension, everything to rebuild everything underneath the trailer. $20 for the 2 push button switches. The metal strip that goes down the center of the trailer cost me $40. LED cubes that go behind the spare tires were $90. And I'm throwing another $50 in there just for the butt connectors and other odds and ends. That makes the total cost to rebuild this trailer $5,362. Now, to buy this same trailer with twin 5,000-pound axles and all the options that I added to this one was advertised locally for me for $7,500. But that was without an 8,000-pound winch or 2 spares. So let's figure $8,500 if I added those 2 items. That's a serious savings of over $3,000 to rebuild this trailer myself, and I think it's gonna be better than any trailer I can buy. Okay, with that, our last custom touch on this trailer is done. You can see I've got these clear LED lights now in the deck of the trailer, and it's all wired up. I've also got those cubes back here. What I did to make them, I put 2 little push button switches on the outside of the tongue box, so I don't have to unlock it to turn the lights on. So this one right here, boom, that lights up those LED lights right down the middle. That'll give me a good amount of light if I need to wire something up. And then these are my other lights. I put them at a little bit of an angle so it would throw light out towards the side. I just think it looks a lot better that way. And that is the complete rebuild of this trailer. It's 100% done, and you can see with that cost breakdown, this is definitely a better way to do this. You know, I saved almost $3,000 building this trailer myself, opposed to buying a brand new trailer. So right now, all that's left to do is get it out of the shop, hook it up to the truck, and maybe tow something.